stuff with all your grass pathogens is very interesting.
You there?
Can you hear me? Okay, it's definitely me because I was having the same problem with David earlier.
Okay. It just came back. It was fine.
Okay. Well, we'll try it out. If it falls apart, it wasn't meant to be. We'll do it next week.
Good way to think about it.
Okay. So you're like studying, I don't know, like grass STDs or something. What are you doing right now?
Now I'm down here for a bachelorette party that my wife is going to, and then an engagement party tomorrow. But this week at work, yes, I was looking at diseases of grass.
That's really interesting.
I loved it. It was great. Like the first year, we had really good disease. So
we had really good disease.
Yeah. No, we want to get it as bad as it can be. So, so we were lucky. Everybody looked at it. I was like, this is like beauty right here. This is perfect. If I shared as many pictures as I wanted to with the group, I would have gotten kicked out of it.
As long as they're, Monica got away with like the worms on her belly. So you gotta really bring your A game if you want to top that.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, so we're at level 19. You did not request a level up from 18, but I'm going to take your word for it. Let's.
I did request a level.
No, you did not. Lies.
I swear I did.
Okay, well, it didn't go through, so that's fine. But I was checking out your stuff. What are you bringing to level 19?
I am bringing some of the images that were shown there, but then since that had gone up, I had done another shoot on image from that in as well. So I have 5 images. Basically, what we had talked about was kind of the whole concept of pulling together a team and developing a concept around a specific shoot. And I had outlaid in level 17, I had outlined 5 different things that I wanted to do. I don't think all of those are represented in here, but parts of them are represented. But I can only bring in 5 images, so I do have other images that represent some of the other levels or other areas that I outlined, but I'm bringing in 5 this time.
So how are you feeling? Because you're coming up on the end of your second sphere, so you've been here for 20 levels. Are you seeing growth, and do you have a better idea of what it is that you're doing and wanted to?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I can see the images, and you'll see it when I share the ones that I am bringing in. I don't know if it's a style that is like what it's going to represent me, but for me, it's what I really like. Like I could start to see how I edit and how I shoot an image. I'm working with another person who does the styling for me, but she does some photography on the side too, and she shoots very bright and cheery and smiley, and we compared our work together, and like my stuff is always dark and moody and really about like something in the eyes, but you can't really tell what it is. And hers is very bright, cheery, and anyway, I can see what I like about my images. So again, because I'm not doing this for necessarily as a profession, like I don't really care if people like it or not. I can see where my style is going, and I like it, so it's good.
Okay, well, put your money where your mouth is. Let's see what you brought. Okay,
so this one actually is a little different than, I like it a lot, but it's a little.
You have to click on the screen share. I'm not seeing it.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah, level 19. You just lost points, dude.
Yeah. That's what happens when
you failed before you even started.
I know. When I'm at home, I have 2 monitors and everything is like up and I can see everything, and then I'm here and I'm like, I have to screen share, and it totally screws me up. We'll see if this actually works too when I go full screen on you to see if it will work. But let me, actually I'll just do it this way, entire screen. So you're going to see yourself for a second, but I'll quickly switch over to.
No worries.
Okay, can you see that?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so now tell me about it.
Yes. So I'm not so much into black and whites, but I did like this picture. It's kind of got a grainy moodiness to it. One of the levels, or one of the outlines for level 17 was supposed to be some natural light, kind of glamour type shots. And I don't shoot too much of this, but that's what this was. This was actually when Martin was in town, and we were playing back and forth between the studio lighting and then this room where we had natural lighting. And so, yeah, I mean, it was basically an impromptu shot while I was waiting for to get in front of the studio lighting, which you'll see in the next shot. But there was something interesting about her pose and her look, and I think I put it in here because I really did like that it was converted to black and white. It worked better in black and white. But to be honest, I don't think I edited this at all except to convert it to black and white. So maybe that's another reason.
I love this one, especially if it's pretty much out of camera. You're still struggling a little bit with wanting to keep the hands facing towards the lens. And it's such, you're like 80% of the way there. You just need to, like, that hand up by the lip, it's just got to turn away to make it a little bit slimmer. But this one's way better than the last one I was giving you a hard time for. I love the curve of her back. It's very simplistic and it's very pretty, which is always a wonderful thing to do when you're shooting for your clients, because it means they get compliments about being a natural beauty rather than that's a great photograph of you, you know? So I like that a lot. The lighting's really soft, but we still have a lot of contrast and color, and I like the plain background behind her. The only thing that I think is slightly distracting is it looks like she's leaning against a door or a frame. There's some kind of molding there. That white band down the front on the left is driving me up a wall because I keep wanting to look over there because it's the most highlighted thing anywhere on the image. So either just crop that out or take it and warp it and stretch it out so that we're seeing more of the gray and we're not getting that strip down the side. But it's a great job on the posing. Her left hand is just a little bit funny because it's kind of amputated at the wrist with the angle that it's at, but it doesn't really bother me. It doesn't kill the image for me. I just think if we had pulled her hand a little bit more around her body and given some view of the arm, it probably would have been a little bit stronger. But I love the pose. I love the shyness. I love, you know, her connection, and the styling's fantastic. I see just a little bit of Martin's posing style in this, so it's interesting to see how we start to adapt other artistic tendencies when we're collaborating. But overall, I'm gonna give this a 3. I think you hit all the major points. It's a beautiful shot. It's an exceptional shot for being out of camera. Well done.
Thanks. I struggled with that line on the side too. This area here, it's a window actually, and that's where the light's coming from. And I was like, well, if I take it out, it's hard to give an idea of where the light's coming from. But I think maybe if there's room up at the top and even at the bottom to, ooh, sorry, it's not what I wanted to do. There's room that I could cut that out and just have not that bright band in there. So I think that's something I'll have to.
Yeah, you're thinking from the standpoint of photographer. Nobody looking at this picture cares where the light's coming from. They're looking at her.
Yeah.
Only we think that way.
That's what they should be looking at, I think so.
Oh, debatable. If I had a picture of me like that, they better not be looking for the lighting source.
Right.
Okay. Next image.
Okay, so this is really where we were going with her is we basically went right from that room through this was actually the hairstylist. She had this vest and we threw it on her and then brought her in front of the light. So basically this is a large softbox and she's behind her actually. So it's shooting into me, and then there's a beauty dish in front with I think maybe a reflector underneath. I don't know, you'll probably kill me with the hands again because it's, you know, you don't see her nails and it's not as dainty, but I see it in a lot of my images and it doesn't bother me at all. So I struggle with it. I tend to pick some of these images that have that. I always get killed on hands, but I still keep picking the same ones. But anyway, so this was the look I was going for with her hair. and her makeup and everything. We were just waiting to get to the light, and that's what we were at.
The hands don't bother me in this one because there's separation of the fingers still, and we can see them as individual appendages rather than a paw. The last one that we gave you a really hard time with, I don't even remember if it was level 14 or level 9, but and you got reamed for it pretty hard in the Creation Wars too, was because there wasn't any separation. It wasn't a hand. It was very paw-like. And here there's definitely the individual fingers and the slenderness from them, and the lighting on it's beautiful, so that'll help a lot of times too. Her connection with the camera is great. The lighting's beautiful. It's a nice clean background. I really don't have too much negative critique for this. It's very, very well done. Do you think that you could have got this image like this if Martin hadn't been with you? Did I lose you? Sorry, I lost you there for a minute.
Yeah, that's
Did you
okay.
get all that?
I didn't hear what you said. You just said, "Do you think you?" and then you cut out.
Okay. Do you think that you could have got this image lit like that? Technical difficulties. Do you think you could have got this image lit like that and come out with this as the end result if you hadn't been shooting with Martin?
Yes, I do. I think that this image and this lighting, I've done this lighting setup before, and I definitely tried to shoot with him because we were practicing different things, and we were doing it with each other actually. I definitely tried to shoot tighter, but I still couldn't convince myself to shoot as tight as he does. Like, I just couldn't do it. Like, I can't crop the head. I can't get in that tight. But yeah, I don't think that this was necessarily one of the images that I have of this particular person that I would consider to be Martin-esque, because all of those were like super tight shots. And he did some shoots with her too, and they're very different. So no, I still think this is mine.
Yeah, I absolutely do. It was more of a question in the technical understanding and the ability to get the look that you're after with proficiency. Because if you put this one up and didn't tell me who it was and it was between the two of you, I see a lot of Martin's style. But I take that as a compliment. It's absolutely a compliment. He's a brilliant photographer in the sense that, well, it's both. It's a compliment and it's an insult, actually, because it's a compliment in the sense that he's a very accomplished photographer and knows what he's doing. And I've said that from day one. It's an insult in the fact that nobody should ever say that looks like somebody else's work. They should always say it looks like yours.
Yeah.
But I'm okay with it because this was literally a shoot with him. So even when I do that with other photographers, and I feel like my style is very pronounced and defined at this point, if I shoot with somebody else and we're taking turns playing with the lighting and the setup and stuff like that, a couple of each of our images will look like the other one. So it's not a negative thing. It's not a hit at all. I was just curious if you feel like you've progressed to a point now, as opposed to when you started, that you can get the kind of lighting and the look that you're after, because this is a lot lighter for you. Like you said, your work's very dark and moody usually, and you tend to tone it down a little. And Martin, for example, tends to go for very high fashion kind of light editorial kind of looks. So this definitely leans more towards his style than I think it does yours, but I do still hear your voice in the shot. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think this is Taylor. She's never images that we both really were drawn to was this really bright backlit type shot. So we had planned this before I even knew Martin was coming in to try it. So it definitely is different, though. I mean, than some of mine. You'll see the next 3 images definitely have a more moody and darker tone to them. But this is definitely something that we had worked on. And I think the only part that I would say is influence from Martin was just my wanting to shoot very, very tight, and I still couldn't force myself to do it.
That's good. That means that you gravitate towards your style and you know what that is. That's good. I wouldn't fight that. You know,
Yeah,
there's
no, I just go ahead.
You know, like we said, like he's a brilliant photographer. His work's beautiful. But I don't want to see you ever feel like, oh, I had to fight. Anytime that you're like, oh, I have to fight against myself. I did that with one of my makeup artists. I actually ended a relationship with one of my makeup artists because she hates that I shoot in such muted tones because it tones down the beauty of her makeup.
Right.
And she was absolutely right. And we ended on great terms and it was fine, but she's just like, none of this is good for my portfolio. And so she ended up working with another photographer that works very saturated and contrasty and, you know, was more in line with what she wanted to be represented as. And it was for a couple of weeks, I was really trying it and I was gritting my teeth editing and having to like force myself to go back and undo my natural process of editing and shooting to be able to be more accommodating. So anytime you feel that I had to force myself to shoot tight and I still couldn't do it, that's your inner artistic voice going, no, 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 that's not us. That's them. So listen to it. But that said, even still, you know, I do see a lot of you in this photograph too. And it's exceptionally well done. It's beautiful. I think it would have been, a little bit better if you had actually pulled out a little bit. So if you had listened to yourself and pulled out just a little, I would have liked to have seen it maybe come down to the forearms because I feel like her hands are a little bit amputated. And the crop could have been just a little bit lower. I would have liked to have seen more of her hands and maybe a little bit more of that lower shoulder. But that's really nitpicking at it. It's a gorgeous shot. It's still an exemplary image. It's still scoring a 3 easily. So.
Thanks. I probably have. I mean, I took several shots since I was limited by how far I could go down because the softbox behind her, we would lose it, and I didn't have a tripod that was low enough to get it even lower. It's like all my tripods started at a higher point.
Right.
Anyway, it is what it is.
So she's not on a white backdrop at all. She's literally in front of the softbox there.
She's about an inch away from the softbox, right up against it.
Right. Well done. It's a beautiful image. Let's see the next one. You're 2 for 2. Let's see if you can keep it.
No, well, the funny thing is now it's starting to get to the stuff that I like, and it'll get knocked. Okay, so this was another person that had never shot before, and we worked with really the clothing part wasn't a big part of it, but we did work with a group and we had a few outfits for her. And then based on Monica's headdress thing that she had done the tutorial. Anyway, I don't know why I picked this one out of the 7 or 8 that I had of this, but probably because it was kind of the full shot. We went and got the background to kind of go with it, and I struggled with the lighting on it quite a bit because I wasn't sure if I wanted it to have more lighting on it or less lighting on it. But anyway, this is what I came up with. Again, another person who had never shot before, and my stylist who also does photography, she shot some looks with this girl too. And this girl was a very smiley, fun, bubbly girl, and that's not what I wanted. So like I was like trying to rein in this kind of like more moodiness, and so this is what I came up with.
Well, you lost your perfect 3 streak. I'm gonna give you a 2 for this one. There's a couple of reasons why. One, I feel like at this point I've beat into your head enough to separate the limbs from the body to create that negative space. So she's looking a little wide. And I love the curls in her hair, but that's actually helping to amplify it. So there's all this weight in her upper body right now from the thickness of the hair and her shoulders and the dress. And you pulled the fabric of the dress up. You pulled it up right along the line of her waist to cut off any of that indentation and that curve that we like to see. this is one where you didn't nail the hands. Her left hand isn't bad. The right hand starts to look very Paul-like because we can't see the separation of the fingers. That's what we're looking for. It's not necessarily that you have to see all of them or that they have to be extended, but we have to know that there's 5 of them. Here, there's 2. Can you see that?
Yep.
Yeah.
It's funny because all the things that you say, I see them before I even bring it in, but I still bring it in because there's something I liked about the image. So
yeah.
The biggest thing that bothered me was definitely the, having her squared up to the camera and making her look like she's, bigger than she is. And I don't think I had that in the other pictures, but for some reason, most of them were so tight that I liked the 3/4 body on this one. But yeah, I can't argue with you at any of those points for sure.
I love the 3/4 look and the styling. I think the headdress, and I love that you guys got creative with it and did it, but I think that the headdress is a little bit too big for her. It's overpowering her head. It's very, it almost looks like those like cartoon character Russian hats. You know what I mean? Like the big fur ones, but with flowers. And it's a little bit overkill. And I know Monica did this great tutorial, but the floral headband thing is so overdone since Sue Bryce hit the scene and did her tutorial on them that at this point it's becoming like a photo cliche, like hand bras and railroad tracks and spot coloring. Like it's overdone. So I'm not a huge fan unless it's really, really overdone or it's something very, very unique that really sets it apart from all the others, because flowers in the hair is just like the thing now for glamour photography. I agree with you that her being perfectly squared off with the thick hair and without any separation from the limbs makes her look a lot wider. But I love the coloring of it, and I love the 3/4 length. We just needed to change our perspective in relation to her, because I really, really love the way that you choose to light. When you're really in touch, all of yours are very moody, and it's very hard to get that sort of toned down, dark, moody lighting and still keep life in the eyes. And you are just a master of that in every single images. I've never seen a photo of yours come to critique that the eyes are dead. And most of the time that the eyes look dead is because we didn't get enough light in them to show the life. So you nailed it there. The colors are beautiful. I love your retouching and the tonality of it. I think we just missed the mark a little bit with the styling and with the posing in this one. So it's a 2.
Moving on. Okay, same girl, a separate look, and it's funny, I now see like it's squared off, but I still like it. We were trying to get this kind of like modern hippie type look, so we gave her a big fat braid on the side, and the lighting is still very moody. This is almost to that kind of Rembrandt lighting where you just have that triangle on the left side of her face, and we were just trying to have fun with it and be like edgy but goofy. And, so, the peace sign is very cliche, but I still liked it. I guess if I was critiquing it now ahead of you, that separation of that left arm, to be able to see more of her body. And I don't fight with it, actually. I fight with them all the time to get them to do it. And then I end up going in and I end up picking images where they didn't do it. So, again, I don't know. It's definitely my style. It's because people, I don't know. I guess I don't feel like I have to, if I have 50 images and say pick 10, I don't really care what they pick because I'm going to pick my 10 and give them that because that's what I like. But it's different for me because I'm not, trying to make a ton of money off of this. But anyway, so one light setup, kind of this like you there?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
So I don't mind the peace sign. I don't mind that you got a little cliche with that. I do think her arm looks stiff. And the biggest problem with it, aside from the fact that it adds width to her body, is that when the line goes straight down like that, women are all about curves and indentations. Like the universal sign for like a good looking woman is like this, you know, like that's how we think of female bodies. So, you know, if you're like, oh man, I was out with this girl last night and she was like, people are like, oh, you know, so we're always looking for those curves, and those lines distract away from it when everything's going straight down, which is a problem because like even with the hand that's up, the elbow comes right to the waistline, which should curve in. Now you gain that back a little bit because of the styling and the fact that we get the illusion of that line, because the dark fabric on her elbow creates the visual line that curves that in still. So we get it at least on one side. I like the styling and the wardrobe on this one. I love her hair in the braid. I'm not a huge fan of the fact that you raised her face up because we're looking up her nose, which is never really flattering. The other problem is that as soon as you bring the chin up, you widen the jawline right here. So this is like very rarely flattering unless the girl has a very thin jaw to begin with. So if we had taken her from here to here, it would have been a much stronger shot, I think. And if you wanted it to be, like sort of moody, I think tilting her head to the side rather than back and away from the camera would have been better. We also, the other thing, I was just giving you a compliment for this too, is that by having her throw her head back, in order for her to look forward, she has to almost close her eyes. So we get a lot more of the lid, and the light's beautiful on her face, but it gives a lot less area for the light to get into the eyes. So we lost a little bit of the eyes in this one, at least in the digital interpretation. And yeah, you're thinking right along lines with me. It may not be that bad when it's zoomed in or from what you're looking at on your computer, but if we're seeing this on social media where it gets compressed, I feel like we lose it a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. I was zooming in just to see what it looked like, but you know, if I cropped it, that's one thing. But I can tell you're saying from farther back, you definitely, if you don't look right into her eyes, it almost looks like everything's just kind of dark. So I see that.
Yeah. But I love the light. I love the texture of the hair. I love the color toning in that her hair is playing off of the golds in the jewelry and the bracelets. It's very flattering. I love the retouching on it. It's well lit. The posing bothers me less. I just feel like the upper arms and the shoulders are still a little broad and stiff. And the chin. Those are the only two things. But it's still going to score a really high 2 for me.
Okay.
One more?
Last one. Okay. This is from Monday. I shot Monday? Yeah, I think it was Monday. And again, just some random person that had never shot before and just said, oh, sure, I'll do it. And I had a whole team there from hair and makeup and styling, and even somebody to handle like some social media photos and stuff in the background. So we were trying to have some fun with the whole shoot. And so we did a lot of different looks, maybe 3 or 4 different looks with her, but these kind of like, her eyes were killing me. They were so good. I just was like, I have to get in there and try and shoot tight. But it was still kind of that dark and moody feeling. I got knocked in the, this is one that I actually had put into, I don't know if I just put it online in a post or what, but people commented on the hands being distracting, and I don't agree, but again, that's me feeling like the hands, and I start to see that I really do like the hands coming into the pose, even if they're distracting. But to me, those eyes are it. That's the image to me.
I agree. There's very few things that I don't like about this, but the hand, I don't know that I don't like the hand, but I do feel like it's a little heavy in the front because you shot so tight. The hand's the closest thing to the lens. So if you look at it, like if you took like a ruler and measured, like her hand is competing with her face for size right now. It comes almost as wide as like her jaw. And so I think that's why it's coming off as distracting. And we're in agreement that the eyes are the star of this portrait. She's got killer eyes, and you did a great job photographing them and capturing that life and that thing that's in all of your shots that everybody loves. And I think if that hand was down and it had just been her making that connection, that it would have been a much stronger portrait. I want to clean up a few of the flyaway hairs too. I like the little tendrils coming down, but on her left hand side, there's this one that comes off of the back of her head. That's a little bit too thick for me, and it looks like, yeah, up higher off of the back here. Yeah, that one right there. I would be inclined to edit that one out specifically, because the others look like they were tendrils that were styled that way specifically. That one looks like it was supposed to make it into the ponytail and didn't. And there's a couple of other like thicker flyaways on the other side too, that I would just up towards like right above her ears, that I would be inclined to, yeah, right there. Those would be the ones I would want to take out. Other than that, it's beautiful. The lighting on her face is gorgeous. And you nailed the light somewhere that people don't usually pay attention to. One of the things that makes very feminine and gorgeous lips is making sure that you get that little highlight on the top of the points of the lips. That little, see how it's like almost like an M of light? That's always, it just makes the lips look stunning. And you did it here very well, that it's a noticeable enough highlight to draw attention to her lips, but not enough that it's overpowering her, taking away from the fact that her gaze is where the focus is. So I do really think it would have been stronger without that hand, but I also like that everybody's beating on you for hands the last 20 levels and you're still keeping them in, which means that's part of your style, and hands are just going to be something that you're drawn through. And as you continue to grow and understand the placement of them and what works and what doesn't with them, I think they'll actually become a really strong asset, and everyone will be like, oh, I want to be able to control hands and put them in the portrait like that John guy does. You know, you could do a whole cohort now that you're a protege just on how to photograph hands.
I need a lot more work before I do that. Yeah, actually, I was so in love with this like look and this setup that I have probably a lot from it, and I'm sure that I have ones that are very similar to this that don't have the hands in them, and I'll have to go back and look. But this is just one of the ones I chose, and she maintained that kind of look and those eyes through almost all the shots that I got in this look. And I think that the tendrils and the hair, I agree 100%. I think that when I remember some of the ones I pulled back a little bit, they seem to make more sense. But once you get in tight like this, all of a sudden, ones that seem like they had a purpose don't so much seem like they have a purpose anymore. So,
yeah. Overall, though, like, it's still an absolutely gorgeous shot. It's well lit. It's very, very beautifully and simplistically edited, which is another skill of yours. Everybody looks at how beautiful the girl looks, not it's a really well done photograph. And that is a huge, huge selling point for people. It's like, you know, they say that with makeup with girls all the time. The whole point is to accentuate, not to, you know, not to cover up or paint. You know, you want it to look like you didn't do anything. And your work has the kind of illusion of being so natural that it looks like you didn't touch it. And I think that's definitely a strength of yours as well. So this one's still a 3 for me, even with the hands. I still think it's a really beautiful image and one of the best. And this would be probably in my top 5 if I had to pick an opening image for your website.
Awesome.
Well done. All right.
I'm going to get out of this and come back to you.
Yay. Okay, well, you, not me, though.
What'd you say?
I said you, not me. I was seeing myself. It always freaks me out when I see myself reversed on the screen.
So, yeah, so, you know, the level 20, you know, or the 20 levels has become kind of a, I feel like I'm developing a style, and I don't necessarily need the levels. Like I really am starting to focus on the pathway with protege now, and getting into it as soon as my students left and I had some more time to focus on it. Because when they're here, it's like 8 weeks of hell, and it's very difficult to keep up with everything. And then when they left, I was shooting so much trying to catch up because I hadn't shot. But now I'm like full steam ahead trying to really get involved and do the pathway. And I'm excited. I think it's like, going into it, I wasn't sure. I mean, I knew I was interested and that I would want to do it. But the more I do the levels and the more that I, make videos and the more that I've interacted and done a couple critiques now, the more excited I'm getting about it. So that's a good thing.
So is that your way of telling me you don't want to set your own level 20?
No. I think my level 20 is almost done. Sorry, my wife is leaving. She's going to go see some friends, I guess.
Bye,
wife. No, my level 20 is, I'm still going to work on it. It's essentially done. It was really about cleaning up some of my workflow and organizing some stuff. But I'm not going to rush. I need to continue to work on the protege, and when I need to finish my level 20, I'll be at the right time within the pathway. But I do want to clean up some more stuff, so I'm not abandoning it. I've done a ton of it already, but I'm going to force it as kind of my last bit of work that I need to feel good about completing it. But it's, for all intents and purposes, it's 85, 90% done.
Okay, well, I'm not in a hurry for you to complete level 20, because as soon as you do and I level you up, then you go sit in the level 20 lounge anyway. And I'd actually rather you be in the group, and you and Monica are probably, out of all the proteges, I see you the most jumping in and helping out, especially at the lower levels, and you're just constantly checking in. So one of the things that we're talking about, and we're going to get into this with the Path of the Protege meeting too, is sort of having like assistant teachers in the cohorts while you guys are learning, just to give you guys some good experience in running cohorts before you start your own. And I'd like you to kind of hang out and help do that with me a little more. So
yeah, it's perfect. I mean, I've enjoyed it. I don't feel like it's like I've got so much to do and I can't do it. I mean, it's, for me to be on my phone while things are going on, or at my desk and have it up on one monitor. It's really easy to stay active and be there and try and help people out when they're there. And the one thing that I've seen with Scott's cohort and your cohort is, like, as soon as people start getting disconnected, everybody starts rumbling and getting cranky. And so, yep. I mean, you were busy for like a couple of weeks and there weren't hangouts and critiques, and all of a sudden people are like, well, it's got too many people, and so I'm really cognizant of that, and really, I want to make sure that I dedicate the time, and that's why I've been trying to be as active as possible in as many different areas as possible, because I want to know what it's going to be like when I have my own cohort, and
it's interesting, and you'll start to notice, and I'm gonna slap wrists a little bit in the cohort, because the people that are getting frustrated are the same people that didn't do anything for a couple of weeks. And then once they get in and start paying attention, they want undivided attention, which is just, it's not a negative thing. It's just a frame of reference thing. Like, people forget, like, because, you've seen quite a few of the apprentices that dropped out because, they were traveling for a month or two, or like, we haven't seen Gretchen around lately because she's getting ready for a gallery show. Monica's working on hers, and Lars hasn't been around lately because he's working on his, like, and people have family things. That's totally fine. That's part of the joy of the Arcanum, is that they can work at their own pace. So whether they want to drop out for a couple of days or even a couple of weeks or a couple of months is no problem at all. But then people get excited when they get back in, so they want to focus on it right away. And if you're not there, then they get upset. So it's a little bit of a paradox. And I had a conversation with a couple of them about that privately, where I brought to their attention that they were quick to say, oh, it's not worth $80 a month, but then they want undivided attention for less than $3 a day. So it's a little bit of both, but it is important to notice that it is time consuming, and I don't think, with the exception of critiques, I don't think that it takes any more time having 5 people than it does having 35 or 40 people. It's the same amount of time in the chats because you're talking to everyone at once.
Right.
And it only takes a couple of minutes going back and forth to check and see who posted what, and, you know, just make sure you mark off. And Google is most of the time pretty good about like just putting the little notification numbers next to each of the discussions. So I know when I'm going in that I'm looking for 3 new posts that I haven't seen so far. So, and you'll get the hang of that, but you know, you're a teacher to begin with outside of photography. So I think the evolution process for you from apprentice to master is just going to be seamless. So you're just going to pick it up real quick because it's in your nature and your experience anyway. So
yeah, I hope so. I mean, the more I actually have to give you credit and everybody that came up with the pathway, and what you have to do. And a lot of it was already part of the Arcanum, like, you know, the invitation letter, like, you know, write the letter that you're going to like sell to them that, you know, they want to come and be in your cohort. And I was actually writing it on the plane when I was flying down today, and I'm writing it and I'm like, without dropping an F-bomb, because that's what I did on the plane. I'm like, I'm effing excited about this. Like if I was like starting, because it's hard once you've done it, you can't go back to that beginning and that feeling when I first got the invite to go to Scott's group. You can't go back to there. But I think about it and I'm like, man, if I was a person that is been sitting in this, you know, magical place that nothing is happening, and I put this application and then now all of a sudden I have a chance to do it, like damn, I'm excited to get involved. So I was reading it, I was writing it, and I was like, man, I'm excited. I would be excited to be in my cohort. That's what I was thinking.
That's good. I'm excited to see your draft letter because I want to be in your cohort. So yeah, I'm gonna pretty much, like, you're done at this point. You have you're on level 20 that you set up. I'm gonna level you up here in a minute to 19, and so you know, we can talk off record too, and put you in more, and really, like, you can help out a little bit more in the Aurora cohort, and we can kind of go from there until we get you all set up. You know, compared to you guys, they kind of are. They're not necessarily quiet, but they don't rabble rouse the way you guys do. You guys are my troublemakers. I picked too many people like me for the first cohort. I think that was the problem.
I try. I've posted some messages there and tried to see if anybody needed help, but I don't get a lot of feedback from them. So I'm not their master. I don't want to bug them. I just, like, every once in a while you chime in. Anybody need anything? And if they say yes, then I'll help. If they don't, then I'm free to not have to do anything. So,
yeah. You know what though? Like, that's kind of how it is as a master too. Like, you'll find there's certain levels, and they're all at about the nice thing is that they've all been pretty much leveling up together the whole time. So there isn't quite the big span that the other group had. Because I mean, with your cohort, especially when we brought in all of Miss Aniela's, they were like from level 2 to level 19. You know, these guys are all hanging around like the 4 to 8, 4 to 7 realm right now. So they're all within a level or two. And what they're doing really doesn't require a lot of feedback or help right now. It's just them understanding, and all of them are stuck on the intimacy level because they thought they were going to shoot naked girls, and I threw a curveball at them. So they're just sitting there.
They could do that. They could shoot the naked girls if they want. They just can't use it for their intimacy level.
Yeah, exactly. Which is that's the whole crutch. So, but no, I've seen you in it, and it's been nice to get to kind of observe who really wants to be a master and who's really pushing. Because everybody that expressed interest I took seriously, but not everybody's going to get it. Even going through the path, they're really, really selective about who they're having. So, focusing on the path of the protege is a good thing. And the more experience you have helping out in your cohort, the better it looks when we go to the Vanguard. And I go, yes, I can absolutely push him forward because in my cohort, he's done X, Y, and Z. And you're also on the lucky end because you happen to be in my cohort. So I actually get 2 votes with you, which is good.
Yeah, well, there's always somebody to have the other vote, so you still need to be unanimous. So
yeah.
I don't know. I'm not worried about it if people feel like that I and shouldn't be, then that's fine. I would disagree, but I'm just going through the processes to continue to kind of learn. And every time I put something new on paper, I'm like, all right, this is good. I have more vision of what I want to do and what my cohort's going to look like. And so, yeah, it's good.
Good. All right. Well, I'm going to let you go. I got one more tonight before the Path of the Protege hangout. Are you free tonight? The wife's out? Or are you just hanging out at the hotel?
I am
cool.
in. I'll be drunk probably because I'll probably go to the bar right now. But
nice.
But I'll be here now. My wife is going to an engagement party or a bachelorette party tonight, and I think it starts right around 8 o'clock, which is 9 o'clock where you are. So I will be in.
Okay, sounds good. I'll see you then.
All right, thanks.
All right, bye.
Bye.